In this three-part program, Gold Star Mother Nadia McCaffrey talks about her 3 near-death experiences: the death of her son Patrick in Iraq, her efforts to help soldiers returning from combat, and answers questions about the near-death experience and the after-effects of the near-death experience.
Okay. Well, we are a small group. It's nice, and I appreciate you being here tonight, all of you. My story. Before we get to my story, or stories, I would like for you to focus a moment on forgiveness, your life. We all have something to forgive others. We all have something to be forgiven for. It's a big one. Before 2004, I worked with the dying, living and dying. I worked for 20 years with different people's organizations, with Daniel Brinkley. I started my own. I had my own organization, did a lot of speaking on the subject, was there many times when people made their transition. It taught me an enormous amount of profound things. In other words, I was basically trained for the loss of my son without knowing. But you're never trained to lose a child. He was my only child. And he was my shining star. He was 34 years old when he passed away. He was shot 8 times, and I tried to picture that over and over. Could not. In Iraq, in Balad, died 1 hour later after the ambush. He was ambushed. My life became someone else's life. My old life had stopped. And, I had to either face it, do it, or not. I mean, you have a choice. You have a choice for everything that you do, for your life, or what you're going to do with your life. You can withdraw, you can turn around and do something positive, you can survive it in a positive way, because I think it's not just surviving something that counts, it's being there with yourself, with your soul, the project outside. If you don't basically show, and this is my view, of course, I needed, not just by surviving, but I needed to reach out to people that because you go through a tragedy, your life is not over like it seemed at first, okay? And, I'm still here. And this was in 2004. But the day I was told that my son was shot and killed, I was sitting on a fence, a 10-foot tall fence, in 29 Palm. And I was actually there for a friend of mine who's passed away now. Her name was Françoise, and she used to have a bookstore in San Jose called Ram Books. Some of you may have met Françoise. She called me because she was dying and she wanted to see me. I was kind of responsible for her moving to 29 Palm. She lost a store in San Jose and I had nowhere to go except for $400 of Social Security after working all her life with books. So I just put her in my car, we traveled to 29 Palm, find a house that she liked. After she sold everything that she had, including her car, she came up with $20,000, which bought a house in 29 Palm. We left, and she had a house. So came back to the store and packed up. So when she called me that day, I traveled from Tracy, where I live now, which is my son's house, to there to be with her. I arrived in the middle of the night, and the key that she gave me didn't work to open the door, so I had to climb the fence and go through the back door. When I was on top of that fence, I saw a green light in the sky. And the sky can be very dark in the desert. And I stopped and I felt that pressure on my chest. And I said, oh, something happened somewhere. And green, healing, something. I could feel the weight. And came down to the fence. And the next morning I was at her bedside, got the phone call. I don't remember exactly what I did, but I remember one thing. When I came to my senses, I was on the floor, curled up like a fetus, holding my cell phone tight. People around me trying to get me up. So I realized what just happened. I gave a hug to Françoise and I hit the road immediately to get back home because I know that no one, once I would get there, would know what to do. I had 8 hours to drive back to my house, or Patrick's house, to think what to do and to try to imagine what would be life from this point on. And I cried for 8 hours. And people that work with me call me. Dawn is one of them who's here tonight. Every 20 minutes on the road to make sure that I was okay and that I was not falling asleep or have an accident or whatever. So, and I was right. When I got there, everybody was sitting around the table, not knowing what to do at all. So we took it from there. I kind of became the person who was the voice for the family, and I became gradually one of the advocates for the soldiers and the veterans today. The VA does not exactly like me because I tell them what I think. They do a lot of good things, and when this happened, I recognize it too. But going back to forgiveness, if we close our eyes just now for a few seconds, all of us, and see the faces and the people that we would like to forgive, and at the same time, who do we need to forgive? Once we are able to answer this question, it's a big step into peace, inner peace. It's power. We become strong. We can see things and understand things that we did not realize before. It's sort of a very short life review to ourselves, with ourselves. It works. It worked for me. We need to realize and be loving. Believe me, I wish I could hug my son once more. And since 2004, I worked and traveled non-stop all over the world, in this country. I keep doing it, but I'm slowing down now. And this tonight is probably going to be one of the last times that I speak in public, for a while. I need to make a point. I have things to decide, and I have a couple of books started, and I keep pushing it aside. Oh well, something else to do, here you go. Well, I can't push it anymore. I was told very clearly that I have to finish what I started. Okay, so that's where I am today. But in the meantime, I still live in a house in Tracy, who used to belong to my son. And at the same time, I have 3 young veterans who live and share this house with me. All of them have PTSD. One of them has TBI, traumatic brain injury, to a mild degree. Believe me, it's keep you busy. I cook for them, drive them to the VA. Now, one of the vets who has been here exactly for a year has taken over some of my tasks and does a lot for the others, so I can take a break. But since I started to do this, I had at least between 20 and 15 veterans that came through. And when they came or got to my house, they were homeless. They had nowhere to go. And one of them is from Texas. One just got here is from West Virginia. And a young woman is also from West Virginia. And I just had a Marine who left who is from California. Okay? And this is ongoing. When they leave the house, they are able to function again, which means that by the time they leave, they have their benefit together, their social security if it's the case, the VA care that they needed, treatment. I don't give any treatment. I'm a mom. I keep them straight. Okay? But all of them pretty much are staying in touch with me. I had a phone call today from Los Angeles, and a young woman that called me, her name is Lori, she was in Iraq, and she was a medevac. So she saw a lot of ugly things the time she was in Iraq, and she was there 3 times. Very young, very tough, apparently. But I just love Lori. And when she left, she was saying, oh, no, I'm okay, I can do it. And when she arrived, she came from Pennsylvania, she said, well, I think I'm going to live in my car for a while. And I said, no, you're not, you're going to stay here. We have one room, and then we'll work you for everything that you need to work out, and then you go on your own when you're ready, okay? That's just what happened. And the other day for my birthday, she sent me a little note, and she said, I really miss you. And for Lori to say that, whoa, that's a big one. Anyway, I love them, And I think I am doing something that, even if I don't see very many of them, they know that I am here. And they know that they don't have to go in the street. Because if I don't have the room, I will find a place for them. That's my goal. Okay. Now, to go back to my story, it started, first, I am an experiencer, which means that I have had 3 near-death experiences, not one. It started when I was 7 years old. I was born in France, obviously I have an accent, right? So my grandparents, my French grandparents, were farmer, organic farmer, and they owned 5 farms. But they live in one particular estate in Auvergne, which is Lafayette's country, for who knows, if you are familiar a little bit with France. I was raised in a Catholic school by sisters, and a boarding school, not just a school. So I got into that school when I was 4 years old. I got out of there when I was 18, basically. Each vacation, I used to go to my grandparents' estate. I love the farm, the animals, the flowers, the meadow, That was a wonderful thing for me to do. And that summer was July 7, actually, I was 7 years old. I was running to get a bouquet of flowers for my grandmother, and I ran into a snake, an asp, poisonous snake, that bit me at my left ankle. And it was quite a process before it happened. It just froze me. And I know, just looking at a snake, that she represented death, so the viper represented death. I couldn't move. And the pain after she struck was unbelievable. It was horrible. Of course, what I tried to do, my reaction after the snake disappeared into the wheat, I turned around and started to run uphill to get to the house. But it's the wrong thing to do because the blood will circulate and the poison will also get to your heart, the nervous system, everything. So I collapsed. And my grandmother, who heard the scream, ran downhill, picked me up, and took me to the house where she put me on the chaise. And she started to put a garrote on the leg, tied up here, and tried to cut where the snake had struck to retrieve some venom, which is not supposed to be done, but that's what she did at the time. I passed out, and when I came to later, it was dark. I was on their bed, my grandparents' bed, and I saw two people one I knew, the other one I didn't, two doctors that were debating if I was supposed to receive a shot in the abdomen or not. So I guess they gave me the shot and I went into a coma because I stayed too long without the antivenom. So nobody thought I was going to come out of this. 10 days in that coma, and my leg took a huge size. It was 3 times the regular size. Turned brown, blue, green, it was horrible. And a beginning of gangrene started where the viper had struck. I didn't know all of that, of course, I learned afterward. But when I was in this coma, that's where the first experience happened. Basically what happened is I raised above my body. I saw my body. Was not interested a bit by it. It was just something, besides it was ugly. This leg and everything was not interesting at all. So I just kind of was floating, I guess, and then moved around, and then I saw this amazing light that was so magnificent. This light had a beam. This beam of light was a lady, a beautiful lady, but just not for the beauty of it. She was, or she is, everything. Everything. When I say everything, it's love. It's peace. It's everything that you can ever want or dream or want to go to. She was it. She is it. She communicated telepathically, and I understood. I wanted to curl up in her arms and just stay there. I didn't want to do anything else but that and be part of this forever. She let me understood immediately that I was not to come any closer. She had things to tell me. And the message was long. It was all in metaphor. I didn't understood half of it. It took me over 50 years to figure out some of it. And even now, there are things that I'm not entirely sure of the meaning. Yeah, my son's death was there. The war was there. Many of the things that have happened today or recently were in that message. So I need to listen. In other words, I need to take another look at that message again. There are other things that I have not yet picked up. She also told me that I was going to be fine and not to worry about people or anything, that I was there on this earth to work with people, to help out people. Money was not something that I would be interested in and never be. I never will be. She came twice. The details of the message I have, it's too long, but I have everything. I did not forget one single thing of what she said. I remember the way I was dressed. I remember the clothes I was wearing, but the shoes I was wearing. I remember my grandmother's outfit, the way she was dressed that day. Details are unbelievable, very clear, very, very present. The near-death experience itself is the same thing. It's like something that happened yesterday. I can touch it. It never left me. It never left. She told me also that she always would be with me. But I was 7 years old. So of course when she said that, I thought that she would come back again and I could see her again. I could get in that space, I could get into that light, I could be there with her. That's not what she meant. She didn't mean that at all. She meant that she would be with me. Now, of course, I understand. And she also introduced herself as Je suis ta petite maman du ciel, which means I am your little mother of the sky. Probably because I was 7. But that's who she is to me today. After 2 of these visits, I came back to life. Not that I wanted to, but I wanted to see her again. And she never reappeared. I would talk to her and, see her so closely, feel her, feel this light. Never came. So 10 years later, I thought that if she didn't come to me, well, why don't I go to her? What is a coma? Is being in that space. So if I could try to do this, then maybe I can reach her again. Well, so I did. I took some meds that belonged to my grandmother and my great-grandmother at the time, and wanted to go back to that light. But it never occurred to me that this was a suicide as we know it today. I mean, as I understand it now. To me, it did not represent a negative act. Being in this light, being with her, was all I wanted. Okay. So I succeeded finally to get to that light. The second time I took the meds, I left my body and saw the same scenario, if you like. Except that at this time, I couldn't see the light. I couldn't hear anybody. There was nobody there. There was no spiritual being. It was empty. But I was above my body again. And somehow I knew exactly where to go and what to do. So I was attracted to a certain point. And from that point on, I was kind of sucked in very strongly by what we call the tunnel now. I didn't know what this was. It looked like a black hole to me. And at the end of this tunnel, there was this light. And this light was it. It was the light that I was in before. Except that this light was not loving, like the first one. The light was welcoming me in a way, but I heard this huge voice coming from everywhere, just telling me, you can't stay. You haven't started your work yet. This voice was everything too. It was a man's voice, it wasn't a woman's voice. And I argue with everything and everybody. I couldn't argue with that voice. So, sadly enough, I understood, and I had to go back to my body. But I was in a hospital. By the time I got to my body on a gurney, people have left and thought I was dead. My heart actually stopped. I came back, and that was very painful. The transaction from being into a spirit form into the body was horrible. But I got it, okay? They don't want me, so fine. But I thought on the other hand, well, why don't you help me a little better too? I need help here. So, when I turned 18, I married because I wanted to be free. I divorced the man 6 months later, and then I met Patrick's father. I was a student. And I was doing pretty good. I was a rebel. I didn't want many things I didn't accept, okay? But I still was kind. Married him 2 years later, and then we came to the United States with him. He's American. He was from California. And my life has been since 1968 in California, basically. Patrick, my son, was born at Stanford Hospital, right near here. Grew up in San Diego. And after his divorce, he bought a house in Tracy. That's why I'm in Tracy, or I wouldn't be in Tracy. But life goes on. And there is a third episode that has happened. When I was working with the dying, I was sitting with a woman, older woman, who was in a coma herself. And basically I was holding her hand and sitting, facing her this way. Just as a presence, loving presence. And that's when it happened. I became violently ill. A fever came over me. When I realized this, I took my temperature, and I had 105.9. Yes, I was just dripping. I mean, the sweat I was soaked. Period. I couldn't move. The chair I was sitting on was green, and I realized suddenly that I was glowing. And I just did this. I said, what's going on? And the way I felt, I said, okay, I'm going to go, that's it. I said, it's not a big deal for me. So I was ready to go. And the light that came over me was not white. The light was golden. I don't know why, but it wasn't white this time. And instead of the same thing happening again, leaving my body and everything, what happened was a life review. It was not my life review. It was the earth. It was us. It was our future. And it was two future and the present. That was 1999.